Let's look more specifically at the Edicts of Ashoka. This will help us have a better idea of what he was trying to promote by creating his own law edicts and what kinds of impact he was trying to have on his civilization. Alright, let's look at that scenario. In 269 BC, you just conquered most of India. The fighting was bloody, with as many as 100,000 enemy soldiers killed and 150,000 refugees. During this time, you converted to Buddhism, even though most of your subjects are Hindu and feel badly about your actions. You need to create a new ethical code of beliefs to bring guidance to your subjects and peace and prosperity to your empire. What do? Alright, so if you were Ahsoka, what would you do? After this sort of background, you'd have to make some changes. What might they actually be? So here are some of the main categories I want you to think about. What would be some of the prohibitions that you would come up with, right? Things that you would prohibit. What about welfare of the people? How would you look out for the welfare of the people? What about human relations? How would you get people to relate better to each other? Also, what about religion? What would you say about religion or religious toleration? And also public works. What would be some of the public works that you would provide for people? And how would you promote justice? What kinds of justice would you come up with, and how would you impose it on people? Right, so these are some of the things that Ahsoka had to struggle with, and before you look at what the answers are, just think about what you might do if you were in his position. Alright, let's go take a look at the answers. Okay, prohibitions. No sacrifice of animals for religious rituals, and the king renounces victory by wars of conquest. These were the two big prohibitions that Ahsoka had in his edicts. Again, couldn't kill animals for religious reasons, and again, no more fighting wars where hundreds of thousands of people would die. Alright, welfare of the people. Alright, officials will attend to the welfare of the aged, the poor, and prisoners. Access to the king at all times and places, and the government is run efficiently for the welfare and happiness of the people. So think about what that means. Basically, he's concerned about the elderly, people who live in poverty, and also people who have been locked away in jail. Now, this is important that you understand this concept of welfare. In our own society today, welfare seems to have a sort of negative meaning to it. It's almost like it's some kind of a dirty word. But think about what the word welfare means. Welfare is something that you provide to people who cannot provide for themselves. Elderly people, poor people, and obviously people who are locked away in jail can't take care of themselves. And it's responsible government that actually takes care of meeting their needs. Also, that you should have access to the king at all times and places gives people a voice, that they can actually tell the king what they think might be right or wrong, so that he can perhaps get it right or listen to what their needs might be. And again, at that last one, government is supposed to work to provide for the welfare and happiness of the people. Human relations. Obey parents and religious elders. Don't mistreat servants or slaves. So these are two sort of unusual ones that you might think. But again, obey your parents and religious elders is very similar to what you might see with Confucius, with obeying parents, but also, having respect for religion and the elders within the religious organization. But also the idea that you don't mistreat servants and slaves. That slaves and poor people that work for you aren't necessarily someone that you can sort of just take advantage of, that you have to treat them well. You have to treat them with some human dignity as well. And then also be generous to religious persons, relatives, and friends. Okay, so again, you're going to share your charity with people of religion, people that you know, people that you are friendly with. Alright, so let's take a look at religion then. Religious sects may dwell in all places. Do not attack the religious beliefs of others so that men may hear one another's principles. These 2 points really reflect the concept of religious toleration, and even though Ahsoka converted to Buddhism, he was still very tolerant of other beliefs around him, like Hinduism, for instance. Alright, public works. What kinds of public works is he going to encourage? Well, 1, hospitals for people and animals. So not just people, but also animal hospitals. Probably the first society to sort of encourage that. Gardens for growing medicinal plants. So he thought it was important that we grow medicinal plants so that you could provide medicine for people. And wells, trees, and rest houses placed along roads for the comfort of travelers and animals. So basically rest areas, kind of like what we see on modern day highways, a place where you can stop, rest, get something to eat, and also in this case animals as well, because animals would have been used as beasts of burden to travel and carry large goods with. And then the last section we have here is justice. And that's that judges will be independent and will exercise uniformity in procedure and punishment. So it's important that judges be independent, not under the control of the king or government officials, but the judges have to do their own thing. Much like in our own system of government, where the judges are in the judiciary, which is a third branch, a separate branch of government. Wrongdoers should be forgiven as much as possible. So forgiveness is a major characteristic of what Ashoka is trying to get across in his edicts, especially for people who are probably going to prison or jail. And then also, capital punishment should be used with restraint, and the condemned should have 3 days to appeal their sentence. And what capital punishment is a death penalty. He's basically saying, yes, there is a death penalty, but it should only be used in the most extreme cases. So it should be used with restraint, and you have to give people the right to appeal their sentences because you want to make sure you're getting it right. And the last one, it is good not to kill living beings. So again, as a Buddhist, he would have encouraged the tolerance of people's maybe misbehavior, but also would not be an advocate of things like the death sentence or killing people. So killing was wrong. So he respected not just the life of humans, but also the life of animals as well.